Hello, dear readers. I am Anshuman Bora, and I welcome you to this MOOC on Unit 8 titled Gandhian Approach to Rural Development, which is a part of the module titled Approaches to Rural Development. Gandhian approach to rural development is an idea which forms one of the most significant pillars of Gandhian thought, and it continues to influence the development discourse in India. Mahatma Gandhi believed that India lives in her villages. For him, rural India was not just a geographical space, it's the foundation of the nation's cultural, economic, and moral strength. For Gandhiji, the future of India depended on the well being, self reliance, and empowerment of its villages. In this lecture, we will look into the philosophical principles which shaped Mahatma Gandhi's thinking on rural development, which formed a very distinctive and ethically grounded model of community centered development. We will explore his vision of the ideal village. He conceived the village not as a backward or marginal space, but as a self sustaining, morally grounded, and democratically governed community which is able to meet its needs through cooperation and local production. Along with the economic and social dimensions, we'll also discuss the political aspects of Gandhian rural development, particularly his idea of Panchayati Raj and Gandhiji's belief in the moral and practical value of decentralized governance. Finally, we'll also consider the continuing relevance of Gandhiji's rural development model for contemporary discussions on sustainability, self-reliance, and community-centered development. With this, let's begin our discussion by first understanding the philosophical basis on which Mahatma Gandhi built his approach to rural development. To understand his approach to rural development, we have to first understand the philosophical foundations which shaped his thinking about society, economy, and human well-being. Mahatma Gandhi did not view rural development as a technical or administrative project. For him, it was an ethical, social, and moral transformation which is rooted in certain core principles. These principles shaped his entire worldview and provided the framework for imagining a new kind of village life which is based on justice, dignity, cooperation, and self-reliance. The first and most fundamental idea of Mahatma Gandhi is Swaraj, which is often translated as self-rule. However, for Mahatma Gandhi, Swaraj meant much more than political independence. For him, Swaraj meant self-reliance, self-discipline, self-governance, and the ability of individuals and communities to take responsibility for their own lives. Hence, for Mahatma Gandhi, the true foundation of Swaraj was not in the authority of a distant state. It lies in the empowerment of the local communities where the villages are capable of making their own decisions and organizing their own economic and social life. Swaraj begins in the village because true democracy grows from below. A second foundational idea is Sarvodaya, which Gandhiji understood as the rise or welfare of all. This concept emphasizes that development must be inclusive, ethical, and guided by compassion. It rejects the idea that progress should benefit only a few while leaving many behind. Rather, Sarvodaya insists that every individual, regardless of caste, occupation, or social status, must share in the fruits of development. In regard to rural development, Sarvodaya means building villages where social harmony, mutual help, and the dignity of every human being form the basis of community life. It also implies that development is not merely economic, it's also moral and humanistic. A third core principle is that of Swadeshi, which Mahatma Gandhi defined as loyalty to one's immediate environment, loyalty to one's village, one's community, and the resources available nearby. Swadeshi is often misunderstood as a call for isolation. However, in reality, Gandhiji's idea was grounded in responsibility, in the belief that communities must first depend on their own labor, their own skills, and their own resources before turning outward. Swadeshi therefore encouraged local production, local consumption, local economy, and respect for local knowledge. For rural development, this meant strengthening the traditional skills, supporting cottage industries, and creating self-reliant village economies which can withstand external pressures. Another philosophical pillar of Gandhiji is trusteeship. He believed that wealth and resources should never be used for personal gain alone. Those who possess greater wealth or resources should only hold them in trust for the welfare of society. Thus, trusteeship calls for responsible use of wealth, ethical decision making, social responsibility of leaders, and an economic life guided by conscience. In the context of rural development, trusteeship means that every member of a society, of a village, including those with more resources, had a moral duty to contribute for the well being of the community. Thus, for Gandhiji, village development was not just about accumulation, it's about collective welfare and ethical stewardship. Underlying all these principles is the guiding ethical value of ahimsa, that is, non-violence. Ahimsa does not only mean the absence of physical violence, it's a way of living which emphasizes compassion, cooperation, mutual respect, peaceful resolution of conflict, and harmony with all forms of life. For Mahatma Gandhi, rural development also has to be non-violent and free from exploitation, oppression, or domination from any group. Ahimsa shaped the moral vision of a village based on dignity, equality, and shared responsibility. Along with ahimsa, Gandhiji also placed great importance on satya, meaning truth. Truth meant integrity, acting honestly, thinking sincerely, and organizing community life based on transparency and trust. Truth was the very foundation of village self governance and the ethical tone of rural society. Gandhiji believed that a harmonious and self sufficient village must be built on truthfulness in work, in relationships, and in public decision making. Together, all these philosophical principles of Swaraj, Sarvodaya, Swadeshi, trusteeship, ahimsa, and satya form the moral and conceptual foundation of Gandhiji's approach to rural development. They shaped his vision of self reliant villages, which is rooted in ethical living, cooperation, and community responsibility. Let's now try to understand Gandhiji's vision of the ideal village. A vision which translated these philosophical principles into a concrete model of rural life. Gandhiji believed that the renewal of India depended on the renewal of its villages. He imagined the ideal village not as a nostalgic return to the past, but as a living, self reliant, moral, and democratic unit which is capable of guiding its own destiny. Mahatma Gandhi described the village as a complete republic, which is capable of managing its own affairs and meeting its own needs. However, this does not mean isolation. It meant autonomy, which is the ability of the village to govern itself, resolve its internal matters, and provide for the basic requirements without overdependence on external authorities. Gandhiji believed that true democracy begins at the village level, where people know one another, trust one another, and can participate directly in decision making. A central feature of Gandhiji's ideal village is the economic self sufficiency. The village has to be able to produce enough for its own needs, like food, clothing, basic goods, and essential services. Self sufficiency is not only about production, it's also about dignity and security. Gandhiji believed that when a village depends too heavily on external markets, it becomes vulnerable to exploitation. A self reliant village would build its economy on local labor, local resources, and local skills. Gandhiji's ideal village is marked by simplicity. He did not equate development with excess or accumulation. Rather, he envisioned a community where people lived within their means, used the resources responsibly, and minimized waste. For Gandhiji, simplicity did not mean deprivation. It meant ethical restraint, a way which ensures that resources were used wisely and shared fairly. Simplicity allowed the village to remain sustainable, balanced, and harmonious. Gandhiji also imagined the village society as cooperative, non hierarchical, and grounded in mutual respect. He believed that rural life has to be built on equality, shared responsibility, dignity of labor, and rejection of social divisions. In such a village, each person has to contribute to the community through work, service, and participation. No occupation is considered superior or inferior. Social harmony, therefore, was essential for the functioning of an ideal village. Gandhiji also believed that the village has to be rooted in moral and ethical values. Ideals like truth, nonviolence, self discipline, and compassion were not abstract. Rather, they were the guiding principles of daily life. He believed that villages has to cultivate honesty in work, integrity in public life, fairness in decision making, and kindness in social relations. Without a strong ethical foundation, no amount of economic development could create true well being. Gandhiji also had a very deep respect for manual labor. He believed that every individual has to engage in some form of productive physical work. This is not just economic, it is also moral. Engaging in manual labor nurtures humility, strengthens character, reduces dependency, and ties the individuals to the rhythms of local life. Thus, labor for Gandhiji was not just a burden, rather, it's a source of dignity. Finally, Gandhiji's ideal village lives in harmony with nature. He advocated for the responsible use of natural resources, respect for the environment, and sustainable practices which protect the land and the community. This approach anticipated many contemporary ideas of ecological balance and sustainable development. Gandhiji's vision of the ideal village was thus built on self reliance, ethical values, cooperation, simplicity, and democratic participation. The village was imagined as a complete living community which is economically secure, morally grounded, socially harmonious, and capable of shaping its own destiny. So, with this vision in mind, let's look at the economic dimensions of Gandhiji's approach to rural development. Mahatma Gandhi believed that the economic life of a village should be self reliant, decentralized, and rooted in local production. He rejected the large scale centralized industrial models as he felt that they weakened the village communities and created a sense of dependency. For Mahatma Gandhi, the economic dimension of rural development was thus inseparable from ethics, dignity, and human well being. At the very heart of Gandhiji's economic thinking is the principle of self sufficiency. As said before, the village has to be able to produce the essentials which are required for daily life. This does not imply isolation. Rather, it showcases a secure economic foundation which is based on local resources, local labor. Self sufficiency was intended to protect the rural communities from external exploitation, enhance resilience, reduce dependency on distant markets, and promote a shared prosperity within the village. Gandhiji believed that true development can only begin when a community is able to meet its own needs. Mahatma Gandhi also advocated for the development of cottage industries. He wanted villages to have small scale, labor intensive industries which used simple tools and local skills. These industries will be able to provide employment to all, distribute the income more evenly, require few resources, and keep production within the community. For Mahatma Gandhi, dignity of labor was central to village life. The development of cottage industries ensured that every person could contribute meaningfully to the village economy. Mahatma Gandhi also opposed the concentration of production in large industrial centers. He believed that centralized industries created inequality, exploited labor, and disrupted local communities. Rather, he advocated for a decentralized economy where production is spread across villages in small, manageable units. This process of decentralization also helped to reduce dependence on distant markets, strengthen the local communities, encourage cooperation, and promote economic justice. Decentralized economy therefore helps align production with the needs of the community rather than with the external demands. Mahatma Gandhi also emphasized that the villages has to rely on local resources to the greatest extent possible. What this meant was that the villages should use local raw materials, local skills, and local knowledge. Mahatma Gandhi said that when production is grounded in local resources, it becomes sustainable and appropriate for the community's environment and needs. Similarly, Mahatma Gandhi also preferred local markets to distant centralized trading systems. He felt that local exchange encourages fairness and prevents exploitation by external forces. Mahatma Gandhi's economic model was thus guided by certain ethical restraints. He rejected consumerism, material excess, and the idea that prosperity is measured by accumulation. Rather, he promoted the principles of simple living and responsible consumption. He believed that wealth should circulate within the community rather than get concentrated in a few hands. For Mahatma Gandhi, economic life had to be aligned with human values, not human desires. His economic vision was also deeply tied to the idea of full employment. He believed that every person in a village should have the opportunity to contribute through meaningful work. Cottage industries, manual labor, and small scale production made it possible for everyone, from young to old, and from the skilled and the unskilled, to participate in the economic life of the community. Work was therefore not just a means of livelihood, it's a moral duty and a source of dignity. Mahatma Gandhi recognized that the external economic forces often exploited the rural communities, and therefore he advocated for economic structures which protected the villages from unfair pricing, economic dependency, and exploitative trade relationships. His model tried to build an economy which served the village rather than one that extracted from it. For Mahatma Gandhi, economics was never separate from ethics. Economic decisions had to be guided by ideas of compassion, fairness, and shared welfare. Economic development should also uplift everyone, not just a select few, and empower communities, not weaken them. Hence, Gandhiji merged moral values with economic processes and thereby made rural development a deeply ethical endeavor. Gandhiji's economic vision for rural development therefore centered on self-sufficiency, decentralized production, cottage industries, simple living, and ethical responsibility. He tried to create economically secure, equitable, and sustainable villages where every individual could live with dignity and contribute meaningfully towards collective well-being. Now that we have seen the economic dimensions, let's look at the social aspects of Gandhian rural development and understand how the human, ethical, and community oriented elements have shaped Gandhiji's understanding of village life. For Mahatma Gandhi, true development also required transformation of social relationships, community values, and the ethical foundations of daily life. He believed that rural society has to be built on equality, dignity, cooperation, and the moral upliftment of all its members. A central element of Gandhiji's social vision was the removal of social hierarchies, which has long divided rural communities. He advocated for the elimination of discrimination, exclusion, and rigid social barriers. For Gandhiji, a village cannot be truly developed if in one section of the community is denied dignity, respect, or participation. Social equality was therefore not only an abstract ideal, it was an essential condition for harmonious and cooperative village life. Mahatma Gandhi also insisted on the idea of dignity of labor. He believed that no occupation was beneath anyone and that all forms of honest work contributed equally towards the well-being of the community. In a Gandhian village, each person has to participate in productive work and no task is inferior to another. This breaks down principles like class value divisions and creates mutual respect and reinforces community solidarity. Labor for Gandhiji was thus a moral act and a binding force in rural society. He envisioned the village as a cooperative community, not a competitive one. He believed that cooperation has strengthened mutual trust, shared responsibility, and collective well-being, while competition will lead to inequality and conflict. He thought that a cooperative spirit will help ensure that resources, opportunities, and responsibilities will be shared fairly in the village among everyone. Thus, the social life of the village has to be rooted in moral values. Values like truthfulness, self-discipline, humility, and compassion will form the ethical foundations of social behavior, and such a morally grounded community would naturally care for its members and resolve all conflicts peacefully. For Mahatma Gandhi, therefore, ethics was not separate from development. Rather, it was the heart of ethics. In Mahatma Gandhi's approach, education played a very transformative social role. His model of Nate Talim, or basic education, sought to integrate learning, crafts, values, and community life. Education was not merely academic, it was meant to build character, develop practical skills, promote self reliance, and foster responsibility towards the community. Gandhiji believed that education has to prepare individuals' lives meaningfully, ethically, and productively within the village environment. He also gave a very significant emphasis on the role of women in building the just and harmonious society. He viewed that women were equal partners in both social and economic life, and their participation was essential for the well being of the community. Mahatma Gandhi encouraged women's leadership, women's education, and women's involvement in decisions which affected the village life. Mahatma Gandhi believed that a village cannot truly develop if half of its population is marginalized. Finally, Mahatma Gandhi also emphasized the idea that village life should be built on shared responsibility and mutual support. Individuals should not think of only themselves but of the community as a whole. This sense of collective responsibility creates resilience and emotional strength within the rural society. Community well being, Gandhiji believed, is the responsibility of everyone. The social dimensions of Gandhian rural development therefore highlight the importance of equality, cooperation, ethical living, and community responsibility. Mahatma Gandhi understood that a village cannot be truly transformed unless the social relationships are just, moral values are strong, and every individual has the dignity and opportunity to contribute to the life of the community. Now that we've studied both the social and economic foundations of rural life in Gandhian thought, let's look at the political dimensions, the structures of governance, decision making, and community organization, which Mahatma Gandhi believed were essential to create empowered and self reliant villages. For Mahatma Gandhi, rural development was inseparable from political decentralization. His belief that democratic life has to begin at the village level and that Swaraj, true self rule, is possible only when political power is rooted in the community itself. Thus, the cornerstone of Gandhiji's political vision is decentralization. He argued that governance should not be concentrated in distant administrative centers. Rather, power should be distributed to the smallest units of society. Decentralization also means local control over local affairs, participatory decision making, accountability to the community, and governance which is grounded in local needs and realities. For Mahatma Gandhi, democracy loses meaning when the people cannot participate directly. He also believed the village should have an autonomy in its internal matters and manage its own resources, maintain its own institutions, and decide collectively on issues which affect daily life. This autonomy also ensures empowerment of the community, responsiveness to local concerns, flexibility in solving problems, and protection from external interference. Mahatma Gandhi saw autonomy to be essential to create confident, self-dependent villages. The political structure which Mahatma Gandhi envisioned was later expressed in the concept of Panchayati Raj, which is a system of local self-government centered on village councils. Gandhiji believed that such a system would enable direct democracy, regular consultation, community deliberation, and shared responsibility. Here, governance flows from the bottom towards the top, not vice versa. A self-reliant village is one where decisions are made collectively in a spirit of mutual trust and cooperation. For Gandhiji, political structures all alone cannot create a just village. He believed that political life has to be guided by ethical values, and he gave emphasis on truth, non-violence, public honesty, and humility as the essential qualities of leadership. Ethical governance also ensures that political power is used responsibly and for the welfare of all. In Gandhiji's view, Politics without ethics cannot bring true development. He believed that the leaders at the village level should act as servants of the community. It is not a responsibility, not a privilege. Leaders have to listen to the people, work for the weakest members, and embody the values which they expect the others to follow. Such leadership strengthens unity and prevents domination or corruption. For Gandhiji, the character of a leader gave shape to the character of the community. Finally, Mahatma Gandhi also did not separate the political, social, and economic dimensions. For him, village governance has to integrate all aspects of community life. Political decisions have to support the economic self reliance, strengthen social equality, and reinforce moral values. For Mahatma Gandhi, rural development is a holistic process. To develop, political empowerment, social harmony, and economic justice has to move together. Now that we have understood the philosophical, economic, social, and political foundations of Gandhiji's approach to rural development, let's look at the relevance of his model in the present day and consider why his ideas continue to influence contemporary thinking on development, sustainability, and community empowerment. Gandhiji's approach to rural development was grounded in simplicity, self reliance, ethical living, and human dignity. These ideas continue to resonate in a world facing challenges of inequality, over centralization, environmental stress, and social fragmentation. Mahatma Gandhi gave huge emphasis on local production, minimal waste, and responsible resource use. These principles closely align with today's conversations on environmental sustainability. His insistence on balance between human needs and natural resources anticipated many contemporary debates on ecological responsibility. His model gave us a reminder that sustainable futures require ethical choices and community centered planning. Modern development discourse also increasingly recognizes the importance of local governance, which is strongly resonated in Gandhiji's idea for decentralization and village autonomy. The political systems become more responsive and effective when decision making is closer to the people, and local governance helps strengthen participation, accountability, and democratic culture. Development which benefits only a few also cannot create lasting well being. Mahatma Gandhi's principle of Sarvodaya, which means welfare for all, remains a powerful guide to address inequality. His emphasis on ideas like dignity of labor, elimination of social hierarchies, and equality of opportunity gives an ethical foundation to inclusive development. Mahatma Gandhi reminded us that development must uplift every individual, including the most vulnerable. Global economic systems also often create vulnerability in the rural areas. In this regard, Mahatma Gandhi's focus on self-reliance and cottage industries gives an alternative model which prioritizes resilience and local empowerment. Local economies can help create stable employment, reduce external dependency, build community skills, and distribute wealth more evenly. These ideas are increasingly relevant now as communities are trying to find sustainable and fair economic models. Gandhiji also stressed that rural development must be driven by the people themselves. Participation is essential to create meaningful and sustainable change. This idea is also echoed by contemporary development theories. Community driven initiatives tend to be more effective, more inclusive, and more durable. Mahatma Gandhi's belief in voluntary action, collective effort, and shared responsibility has formed a guiding principle in this regard. Mahatma Gandhi's model also challenged the assumptions that modern development emphasizes, like large-scale industrialization, urban urbanization, centralized planning, and consumption-driven growth. His model rather focuses on human needs, ethical restraint, local empowerment, and balance between economic and social goals. These ideas encourage us to question the nature of progress and consider whether development should be measured only in material terms. The relevance of Gandhiji's approach, therefore, lies in its ethical clarity, its human centered vision, and its insistence that development must strengthen communities rather than weaken them. Mahatma Gandhi gave us an idea to build societies which are sustainable, equitable, morally grounded, and rooted in the dignity of every human being. As we conclude this lecture on the Gandhian approach to rural development, let's gather the main ideas we've explored and reflect on depth and coherence of Gandhiji's vision. From the very beginning, Gandhiji has placed the village at the heart of India's future. He believed that India's strength, its moral character, and its cultural vitality depended on the well being of rural communities. For him, rural development was not a peripheral concern, rather, it was a foundation of national progress. We began our discussion with the philosophical principles which served Gandhiji's thought, namely Swaraj, Sarvodaya, Swadeshi, trusteeship, and the guiding values of Satya and Ahimsa. These principles are not just abstract ideas, they're living foundations for a transformation of rural society. We also explored Gandhiji's vision of the ideal village, which is viewed as a community that is self reliant, morally grounded, socially harmonious, economically balanced, and democratically governed. The village is thus a complete republic which is capable, confident, and guided by cooperation and ethical living. We then studied the economic, social, and political dimensions of Gandhian rural development, where economically Mahatma Gandhi emphasized self sufficiency, local industries, simple living, and the dignity of labor. Socially, he insisted on equality, removal of barriers, moral education, and community solidarity. And politically, he envisioned decentralization, autonomy, direct democracy, and ethical leadership. Every dimension supports the other, and together they form a holistic approach which integrates the values, structures, and daily practices into a single coherent model. Finally, we looked at the relevance of Gandhiji's ideas today. His ideas like sustainability, local empowerment, equitable development, ethical economics, and participatory governments remain strikingly significant in a world which is facing complex social and ecological challenges. His approach encourages us to rethink development not simply as growth, but as a process which strengthens communities, protects resources, and upholds moral values. By bringing all these ideas together, we can see that Gandhiji's approach to rural development is not just a historical perspective. It's a living vision and a reminder that development has to begin with people, with local responsibility, and with ethical action and the belief that every community has the capacity to shape its own destiny. Thank you.